Hello and welcome everyone. I'm personally super excited to be discussing the measurement of impact in the corporate social responsibility space in India. So our panelists today are Rama Iyer, Director General of WPP India Foundation, Agnes Nathan, Trustee of Learning Links Foundation India. Okay, let's dive straight into the Q&A. I think we can all agree that we're very much in an era of purpose-led business where social responsibility is very much front and center, perhaps now more than ever. So Rama, tell us, what do you see as the role of social responsibility in a global context?
Okay, thanks, Lizzie. So I think social responsibility has, it's always been part of our ethos and the way we do work, both across the globe and for years to come. If you look at it earlier, whether it was, the rulers or whether it was the merchants, they always bought loyalty of their people by being responsible for them, whether it was the teachers or whether it was, a lot of the religious leaders. They looked at reforming people and reforming the underserved. And even later, if you look at a lot of the industrialists, they set up factories in remote areas, and the only way they could get people to work with them or to be engaged with them was to be socially responsible for them as well. So I think it's always been a way of doing work. It's the what and the how that's changed. If you look at India, for instance, we're the only country where being responsible is almost mandated. And as of January 22nd, impact assessment is also mandated, which I'm extremely happy about. Globally, I think the debate has been largely between shareholderism and stakeholderism. And if I could just explain that for a minute, it's really about, should corporates be responsible to their shareholders and be completely sort of profit driven? Or should they be responsible for their stakeholders and look at the ESG framework as well? So I think that's an ongoing debate. But personally, I think a win-win is, of course, if the visions of both the stakeholders and the shareholders are aligned. It is difficult, but I don't think it's impossible. Maybe the agendas are different. Globally, if you look at it, it could be Black Lives Matter, or it could be climate change, or maybe in emerging markets, it's more about malnutrition, it's about education. But I think we can really, sort of rally our stakeholders around us to work towards the issues which are relevant to us and to our communities. COVID actually is a great example where all stakeholders have come together to address the same issue. So yes, I think it is actually the only way forward. Either organizations realize it and do it voluntarily, or I think the stakeholders are going to start demanding it of them.
That's so interesting. It's almost creating a common framework.
Yes.
So tell me a bit more. What's the role of impact measurement in the social sector?
So I personally think that what gets measured gets done. And to that extent, I think impact investment is really critical. It's only, at the foundation, we always talk about saying that we're opening doors to new opportunities, or in Hindi, it's about for you, Lizzie, nayi zindagi ki dastak. But I think if you look at impact, if you look at impact measurement, it's really about opening doors and listening to the voices that we sometimes don't hear, and for them to be able to tell us what they want, what is working, what's not working. I think sometimes we tend to sit in our boardrooms and in our in our offices and decide what they want or what they need. And very often it's only when you spend disproportionate hours on ground and listen to what they say and see what they're going through and are able to come back, pull back, reorient, put in an intervention that works for them. Only then does it bring a lot more accountability to us, and only then are we able to have interventions that work. I think it's high time that our discussions in the boardroom were completely driven by the voices that we hear, and that and the work that we put out, that's far more responsible and accountable. And to me, that is impact assessment. And I think it's critical. Unless we know, I think we will not always succeed and we will sometimes fail, but we need to know what's working and what's not working to be able to come back and fix it.
Absolutely. That implementation very much from the ground up, as well as top up. Unpacking this concept a little bit further with regards to impact measurement, what would you say are the larger challenges that you see in impact measurement within the social sector?
how much time do you have? No, I think starting with the definition itself, because I think impact measurement means different things to different people. So even when we talk about impact measurement, I don't think all of us are always talking about the same thing or meaning the same thing. So I think for starters, a common understanding of impact assessment or impact measurement in the sector itself would help, because at this point, I think it means different things to different people. The second thing is it is extremely sort of resource intensive, both in terms of the money that we put in, as well as the sort of hand and feet that you need on ground. Even though we try to do a lot of it digitally, it's still extremely expensive. And to that extent, it's also over a long period of time. So we need to be in it for the long haul. And I think we need to find techniques, measures, models to be able to understand quicker and in far more efficient manners as to what's working and what's not. The third thing is, I think we largely work in silos. So for instance, even though we're working in education and there's certain learnings that we have, I don't think other people are learning off us and we are learning off them. So we all pretty much tend to start from the beginning and learn for ourselves. So I think as a sector or as a particular vertical, I don't think we're really benefiting from what the other players have really learned. There are forums, but I don't think it's formal and I don't think it's enough. And I think lastly, because we work on a model which is proof of concept, we hold it really tightly. So whether it's social impact bonds or whether it's proof of concept, I think we hold it very tightly till that phase. But the minute it's scaled out, we're not able to sort of assess or understand the impact at a scale-up model. Again, because of the economies and also because we don't hold it tightly at that stage. So there are a lot of challenges. To me, these are the large, the big four that we are sort of are experiencing and grappling with.
No, that's really useful, and it's very clear that impact measurement is vital for that accountability as well as the justification of investment. Let's now turn to a bit of knowledge sharing and talk a bit about WPP Foundation. So in a nutshell, what would you say WPP Foundation's learnings have been perhaps over the last 5 years of your experience?
So I think the first thing is, in the sector, I think conventionally, a lot of us measure ourselves in terms of the inputs. So typically, how much money have we put in or how many people have we reached? I think one of the things that we did, and we had the advantage of starting on a clean slate, is, we worked with a professor at Harvard who sort of helped us look at it in terms of what is the outcome or what is the change that we want to bring about. It wasn't easy, but I think to us that was probably the best thing that we did in terms of measuring ourselves from the onset in terms of what is the outcome or what is the change that we want to see in the sector as opposed to the input. The second thing I would say is, it's not, and because we're a foundation linked to an organization, it is different. I mean, our success does depend on the multiple stakeholders, however large or however committed we are. We just cannot do this on our own. I think the sooner we realize that, the better. I think the third thing I would say is we need to have the courage to sort of work with our boards to make our internal boards and our stakeholders realize that this will take a long time and we all need to be in it for the long haul. You cannot see change in 12 months or 24 months. And I think people need to understand that when they get into the intervention. And I think it's our job to rally our boards around to understand that that's what we will get to it in a while, but we need that time and we need that those resources and we need the support to be there for a longer period of time. The fourth thing is, I think as a sector, we're very shy and we think that we shouldn't talk about our successes. I don't know why. Maybe because we come from a communication background, I find that a little different from the way we do business. So I think failures will happen. I think we should definitely celebrate our successes because all of us need to know that we're on the right track and we need to feel good about the work that we're doing. And I think it's very encouraging for all our stakeholders as well when we have stories of success. The other, just two more. One is I like to set aside budgets for failure because that gives us a license to try and to sort of experiment and to come back and say it didn't work and to sort of go back and try something different. And the last thing I would say is I think CSR is very closely held. We invariably are a CSR committee or a small team and we hold it together. We need to democratize it and we need to make sure it's something that the larger organization or all our employees are also sort of a part of it.
Well, look, it's great to see the change that you've brought around Rama, what really has been and will be a long journey. But Agnes, over to you now. I certainly would like to hear more about Learning Links Foundation, but also your perspective on WPP Foundation. So how does working with the foundation differ perhaps from other funders?
Thanks, Lizzie. Learning Links is a large group of people passionate about unlocking the lifelong impact of learning. As a nonprofit, we inspire true learning from early age and create links to enable learning across different stages of life. Our beneficiaries include children, youth, adults in the remotest corners of the country, all of whom we equip with knowledge and skills that transforms their lives for the better. What makes our relationship with WPP Foundation different is the mutual respect and willingness to learn from each other. It is very rewarding to walk with WPP as a partner, as we are committed to the same path, that of ensuring our beneficiaries are empowered for life. Starting from their journey as learners in schools to growing up as livelihood earners, we support the beneficiaries during each phase. This strong mission alignment allows us to set clear expectations and also brings a deeper meaning to the relationship. I must say the WPP Foundation team is one of the most invested and involved teams we have worked with. And they are enthusiastic participants in all aspects of the project, including design, implementation, and impact measurement. In fact, I would go as far as to say that measuring impact is a key focus area for both Learning Links and WPP Foundation. The open and honest conversation that I see taking place every day between both the teams really makes it easy to discuss and action new ideas. For example, when we realized that the students in our intervention schools did not have access to smartphones and digital learning resources at home during the pandemic, keeping our mantra of no lockdown on learning, we came up with this idea of distributing grade-wise physical learning kits. These kits have concept building activities and practice worksheets that support self-paced learning. We leverage technology to guide students and assess their performance. WPP team acted swiftly to give all necessary approvals at every stage and also helped us with their feedback on design to make the toolkit interesting and engaging for the students. In the coming years, I know the relationship will go from strength to strength.
No lockdown to learning. I really like that tagline. Agnes, tell me a bit more about what does impact measurement mean for organizations like Learning Links and very much its influence on the education sector.
Impact measurement means keeping the intervention smart. For Learning Links Foundation, impact measurement has always been a priority. It helps us to identify clearly the difference we have made with our programs, as also the progress we are making in fulfilling our mission. While it is important to be dedicated and sincere in the work we do, we cannot deny that it is equally important to define the results that flow from it. It is our responsibility, the positive change that we are bringing with the grants given to us. Although data-backed decision-making has always been the backbone of our program implementation, we recently went a step further. We are rolling out an organization-wide Salesforce-backed solution to obtain and analyze data from the field. I'm sure this will bring in a lot of efficiency and transparency.
Absolutely.
Other than informing program design and decisions, impact measurement also helps us influence policy reform in the education ecosystem. Education is not just what happens inside a classroom. It is also about the changes it brings in the life of the child being educated. This includes performance in grades, attendance, reduction in dropouts, and longer-term impact on communities which are home to the child. A robust mechanism to monitor the data this generates can really help us create a story of impact, which can further guide the shape of education in the future.
So useful to hear about the importance of that CRM system kind of underpinning and being the backbone of the work you do and the efforts. That's really key. We have a couple of minutes. So what would you say has been the impact that you've seen on projects on things like the last mile communities? Agnes, let's hear from you first.
To be very honest, the impact of this program on the last mile communities makes my heart quite happy, I must say. When I see the change that influence life beyond those of the children in our intervention schools, I realize what a multiplier effect one initiative can have, the larger good it can do for the families. Today, children from our schools, from our programs, are confident of their academic ability, more engaged in their own learning. A robust M&E framework guides the analysis of learning levels of the children pre and post the program. For example, to determine the improvement of students in English, we use a specially designed language assessment tool developed by WPP in partnership with IIT Bombay. This tool helps us capture students' performance against relevant parameters. Through our shared learning spaces like the Community Maker Space, which opens doors to even the community children, we have sown the seeds of culture and innovation in the communities. Interestingly, this Community Maker Space really allowed us, Lizzie, to show the same outcomes even during the lockdown. When the world went inside their homes, we went outside the box and brainstormed to create a virtual Community Maker Space. We provided learning kits to the children with engaging do-it-yourself kits that can be and activities that could be done at home. We interacted with our students via tech platforms and helped them to showcase their solutions to real world problems. Both our resource persons and the children were so excited with what they were doing. A student survey that we conducted on this initiative has shown impressive rates for program effectiveness with methodology of our students, showing familiarity with skills like design thinking. They've rated the initiative high on excitement and shown positive interest in attending more sessions. With all this happening, I can confidently say that the work we do together, Learning Links and WPP Foundation, is very good, and the impact on the last mile community is even better.
Agnes, that's such a beautiful piece. Thank you. Rama, in 1 minute, have you got anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Agnes has sort of said most of it, but I just want to add something very quickly is, we do have a theory of change where we measure ourselves across 23 different metrics. And just to give a quick idea of some of the measures on ground. So pre-COVID, if you look at it in terms of just attendance, where there was an all India average of about 77%, our kids, we were at 94 to 95% attendance. And even during COVID, we've managed to connect with 77% of our kids that we've managed to get online. And across a lot of the learning outcomes, I think our scores are anywhere between 33 to about 40%, in digital even up to about 220%. And of course, across life skills, it's anywhere between, say, 6 to about 13%. But I think the real joy or the real last mile connect is really when you walk into the communities or you walk into the classrooms and, the smile that you see on a child's face or the real stories of change. And I think our 20,000 children that we support say that better than I really would. So we could look at one of them. I could just go on, but maybe we can just look at one of them. Thank you. Could we just have a video of one of our kids? Thank you.
धारावी में ऊंचे सपने देखने वाले बहुत हैं। मैं भी उनमें से एक था, लेकिन अपने को पढ़ाई जमी नहीं। और ये बात बाबा को जमी नहीं।
मजदूर का बेटा मजदूर ही बनेगा ना। तो ये बाहर क्या देखते रहता है? ये ऊंचे सपने देखना बंद कर दे।
मैंने फिर भी ट्राई किया, पर एक हादसे ने
चिकन टिक्का गरमा गरम मलाई मार के।
फिर दिन में जो बाबा ने बोला वो करना पड़ा, और रात को जो दोस्तों ने बोला वो। मैं भटक गया था।
विनू ये ले,
लेकिन माँ ने हार नहीं मानी थी।
एक बार जाके तो देख।
मुझे नहीं जाने कहीं। फिर सोचा कि अपनों के लिए एक कोशिश तो बनती है। मैंने WPP इंडिया फाउंडेशन का प्रोग्राम ज्वाइन किया।
एक चेन बना रहा हूँ, आपको ये चेन ओपन करना है, ठीक है? बस उधर ही ले लो। तो आज हम एक्सेल सीखने वाले हैं, तो सब लोग अपने पीसी में एक्सेल ऑन करो।
वहां उनके एक्सपर्ट से अच्छी ट्रेनिंग मिली। 45 दिन जम के मेहनत की, तब जाके खोया हुआ कॉन्फिडेंस दौड़ता वापस आया। हाय दोस्तों, मेरा नाम विनय है। मैं ऐसे पहली बार बात कर रहा हूँ। WPP फाउंडेशन ने मुझे वापस सर उठाने की हिम्मत दी। फिर इम्तिहान का दिन आया।
बाबा नौकरी मिल गई। मुझे तो पता था।
आज एक मजदूर का बेटा MNC में एग्जीक्यूटिव बन गया है। अब बाबा गर्व से पूछते हैं, कैसा दिखता है ऊपर से?
Absolutely brilliant. Vinay's story always brings so much warmth to my heart every time I see that film. Look, we have exactly 5 minutes left for questions. We're going to try and get through as many as possible. Rama, first one for you. Many impact investors choose to use their own metrics instead of using common standard like IRIS or IMP or IMP. What can be done to improve adoption of common standards? I know that's something we've talked about before.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that will really help now is because the bill for the first time has mandated impact assessment. It's never happened before. So I think that is going to force people to look at impact assessment a lot more seriously. I think it's also going to facilitate a lot of conversations because there are going to be a lot of people who are going to get into it for the first time trying to figure it out. I think as a sector, we probably need to create think tanks, and we need to sort of have more of us talking about what works and what doesn't, and create far more formal platforms to share, because I think this is now here to stay. So it's not a nice to do thing, it's a must do. We just have to organize ourselves a little better. And I think, I don't know, maybe AVPN can help us sort of set more formal platforms where we sort of learn off each other and look at the pros and cons of each of these platforms, and as an industry arrive at common standards.
Yeah, great answer. And actually that does answer one of our questions that we've had. Agnes, one for you. What could be the role of grassroots level team members in conducting impact measurement and bringing out very much the stories of change?
Lizzie, I think the role of grassroots level team members is indispensable and probably most significant. Without their active and informed participation, impact measurement would just remain a set of tools on paper, just a fancy and not a reality. In any program, the brains may be M&E framework, but the eyes are your grassroots team members. In our programs, we spend considerable time in capacity building of our resource persons who are more than often not members of the same community where the program is being implemented. They are trained on the effective use of monitoring and evaluation tools. Starting from what to capture when it comes to matrix, how to capture it, and why all of it matters. The team is guided to develop a very, very thorough understanding of impact measurement. This really helps us to bring the most relevant changes of stories of change to the fore and saves valuable time that would otherwise be spent in searching for a needle in the haystack.
Of course. And it is where you put that energy, put that time to make a difference. So key. A question for both of you. So what are your expectations on the education sector from the CSR, project management and funding perspective? And they've mentioned, sustainable and longer term projects. So handing the microphone over to whoever wishes to answer that first.
I'll go for it. Okay, Rama.
No, please go for it. No.
With the NEP 2020, there's going to be a significant shift in what and how of education. On one hand, we have the emerging trends in education, which gravitate towards building stronger foundational numeracy and literacy skills based on how the pandemic has multiplied learning loss. And on the other hand, there is tech-infused learning. So there is so much happening with augmented reality, gamification, interest-based learning, social emotion learning taking the center stage. So I think CSR projects can go beyond mere infrastructure improvement and focus on supporting future-facing solutions that allow learning to be in tandem with the requirement of times. Since the changes in education are slow to show effect, this will definitely require some patience and also investment of both time and money to add to the duration and sustainability of the project.
Great response. Rama, anything to add on top of that?
Yeah, so I'm just going to talk to the funding because that was one aspect of the question as well. I think funding is going to be difficult. Firstly, CSR is based on the profits of companies. The last 12 months has been difficult. So I think the funding kitty itself is going to be tough. The second thing is a lot of the funds from last year have gone into the PM Cares Fund. From this year also, it could be COVID-related funding, which is sort of unscheduled. So I think funding will be a challenge. The good thing is that the bill now allows us to look at 3-year programs. And so people are going to start thinking about a 3-year program as opposed to an ongoing program which doesn't have an end. By now, you're forced to look at a 3-year program. So I think it's going to force us to look at impact. It's going to force us to look at quicker impact with tighter timeframes. So I think those are positives that I'm looking at going forward.
Absolutely. I think we have time for one more question. How do many more organisations engage with systems change in the education sector? And how many donors would support systemic change? That's a very big question.
So Rama, you should take that question.
How many donors would support systemic change? I would like to say a lot more, but we've always found it's a challenge. I think a lot of the organizations are a lot more comfortable funding last mile and work on ground. We've always found it's difficult to rally funding around impact assessment or impact or larger structural issues. We spend disproportionately. But we found that it's not easy, and when we've looked for other people to sort of rally around us, also it's not been very easy. So I don't think it's going to be easy. The only thing which I think will make it easier is only because now impact assessment is mandated. So I think it's going to force companies to look at that, and impact assessment is a long-term process because you see change over, even like the bill says, at least 3 years. So it's gonna, I think the ruling is far more enabling, and to that extent, a lot more positive. So I see it becoming easier and a lot more widespread going forward.
A note of optimism, which is a lovely way to end. I just want to thank you both so much for an honest, humble, very detailed conversation about impact measurement in CSR. I'm sure there will be plenty of people who've watched this who have more questions or perhaps want to get in touch with your respective foundations. So there is a slide that's on the screen now. Do contact us, do get in touch with Rama and Agnes. And yeah, a big thank you for taking part, ladies.
Thank you, and thanks Lizzie, and thanks Agnes.
Thanks Rama, thanks Lizzie, thanks AVPN.
And thank you to AVPN.
Thank you all for that engaging session. We've now come to the end of this session. It was made possible with the kind support of our festival partners, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Sesame Workshop India, the Rockefeller Foundation, COVID Action Collab, VNV Advisory Services LLP, the British Asian Trust, WPP India Foundation, Catalyst Management Services Private Limited, and Satwa. To continue chatting with your speakers and fellow delegates in this session, please make full use of the messaging and meeting function of our festival platform. Do share your highlights of this session on social media, and remember to tag us using the hashtag AVPN South Asia 2021 and hashtag social impact. Up next, the session on reinventing foundational learning for better educational outcomes will be starting shortly. Thank you, and please enjoy the rest of the festival.
Super. I assume we are no longer live. Is it possible to get the video so that we can share it on social media, or is that something that you'll be editing?